They mocked her. They named her. It wasn't a title of honor, it was a tease. In 1966, she had wide eyes, drawn-on lashes, and legs too thin for the era's curves. The world had never seen anything like her. So it gave her a name, Twiggy. In the heart of 1960s London, a city draped in gray buildings and bursting with cultural color, a teenage girl walked quietly into history. Her name was Leslie Hornby, known to everybody as Twiggy. In just 4 years, Twiggy would go from shy teenager to global icon, the face of the 60s, modeling for the greatest photographers, defining mod fashion, and reshaping beauty itself. Before the mascara, the miniskirts, and the magazine covers, she was Leslie Hornby, a quiet, artistic girl from Neasden, London. Born in 1949, she grew up in a post-war Britain, still shaking off the dust of ration books and rigid norms. She was shy, soft-spoken, and more drawn to sketching dresses than wearing them. Her dream wasn't to be seen, it was to design. As a child, she would draw outfits and imagine other people wearing them. But life has its own script. And sometimes, it starts with the wrong door.
Somebody had a friend of a friend who worked on a magazine and said, I think you should go and meet this woman because I think you could maybe model.
The first person she met before doing the shoot was a journalist for Queen magazine. She looked at her and said, but you're too small, too thin, you'll never become a model. She left deflated and cried on the bus.
But she said, I'm going to do some test shots of your face because you've got a very interesting face, but your hair's a mess, because I used to do it myself. And she sent me to this hairdresser's called Leonard.
She was only going to have it set. Then Leonard came over and said, I want to try my new cut on you. She almost said no, but she didn't. Her hair, once long and modest, was shaped into a sharp, boyish crop, minimal, iconic, and completely unexpected. The transformation was stark, a cropped, androgynous cut that rewrote the shape of her face. But Leonard was convinced there was something special about her. Leonard wanted to see if she was photogenic. And in that photo, the makeup was also done by her. No makeup artists, just her, a brush, an instinct.
Barry did all the photographs for Leonard's salon of his new haircut. So it's not really a test shot. I went over there to see if Leonard wanted to see if I was photogenic.
Yeah.
And Barry sat me in front of the camera.
People always think a makeup artist did that look, but it was her. She was a mod. That was how she did her face. Mods were a 1960s youth movement defined by sharp suits, soul music, and a new ideal: thin, stylish, and deliberately different. The result was a haunting image with saucer eyes, spidery lashes, and a face that looked like it had stepped out of a fashion future no one knew they were waiting for. Her nickname, Twiggy, was never something she chose. It came from my first boyfriend's brother, she explained. He used to call me Sticks. And one day, it just turned into Twiggy.
And I had very skinny legs, which I hated.
Right.
And he used to call me Sticks because of my stick-like legs. And I used to get really angry, and somehow Sticks one day turned into Twiggy.
At the shoot, she introduced herself as Leslie, but someone nearby called her Twigs. Barry said, "What did he just call you?" She said, "Twiggy, it's my nickname." And he replied, "If you ever model, use that." He didn't know he was naming a movement.
And he said, "What did he call you?" And I said, "Twiggy." And I said, "It's my nickname." And he said, "Well, if you ever do model, you should use that name."
Yeah.
The photo hung quietly in the salon until a client of Leonard's, Deirdre McSherry of the Daily Express, saw it. "Who's that girl?" she asked. "Just a schoolgirl, Twiggy," Leonard said. 2 weeks later, the article ran, "Twiggy, the face of 66. And just like that, everything changed. Jobs came instantly. Designers wanted her. Photographers followed. At only 16, Twiggy became the face, not of a brand, but of an era. Her look wasn't just new, it was radical. In a world that had only celebrated curves, she made angles beautiful.
And she said, "I'm going to write an article about you." And I already had the nickname Twiggy because my legs were so skinny. She was like the queen of fashion. I mean, whatever Diana Vreeland said was it. And she brought me over from the UK to America and really changed my life. I always say that Diana Vreeland turned me global.
And as the world embraced her, Leslie Hornby, the girl who had never imagined this life, stepped into a persona that would become larger than life. Twiggy had arrived.
You know, I think you get to the point, I've done great pictures with great photographers. You know, what I wanted to do, work with the great photographers, and I've done that.
Designers shifted their silhouettes to flatter her figure. Magazines remade their covers. London youth, especially girls, copied her lashes, her cut, her clothes. Twiggy didn't just model fashion. She became the blueprint. They gave her the chance to do what she had always wanted and to express herself with her own fashion line. But with the adoration came criticism. People called her too skinny. Critics worried aloud about the influence she had on girls' bodies and self-image, but Twiggy insisted. This wasn't a persona she crafted. She wasn't trying to be anything, she just was. She had no agent, no plan, no understanding of what was unfolding. At just 16, she did what others told her, posing, traveling, working non-stop, without ever quite grasping the scale of it all. The headlines moved faster than she could, and for a while she simply followed along. She was not engineered for fame. She was chosen by it. Between 1967 and 1972, Mattel took advantage of the trend with Twiggy Barbie in different styles. By 17, Twiggy was everywhere. Her face floated across the Atlantic on the covers of Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and countless editorials. She modeled for Dior in Paris, walked runways in New York, and helped cement London's place as the new fashion capital of the world. But all the glamour came with a cost. The pressure, the travel, the scrutiny, it all piled up. And after 4 intense years, Twiggy began to feel the weight. I'm very bored with it to start, she admitted years later. I mean, I've been modeling for nearly 4 years now, a long time.
I'm very bored with it for a start. I mean, I've been modelling for nearly 4 years now. Sometime.
She'd done it all. She had worked with the photographers she once dreamed of. You know, I wanted to do work with great photographers, and I've done that, she said. But the thrill was fading. What began as a whirlwind was starting to feel like a trap. She needed more than poses. She needed purpose.
You know, I think you get to the point, I've done great pictures with great photographers. You know, what I wanted to do, work with the great photographers, and I've done that.
As Twiggy's interest in modeling faded, her curiosity turned elsewhere, toward performance. Acting, music, film. She didn't just want to be looked at, she wanted to create something. I want to do a film, she once said in an interview. Not because it was the obvious next step, but because it felt like a challenge, a new way to explore who she was beyond the photo frame.
And also I want to do a film.
I haven't done actual acting, she admitted at the time, but I've performed in front of the camera. I've done a commercial for American TV, singing and dancing.
Not actual acting, I've kind of worked in front of a camera. I've done a commercial for American TV, which was a singing and dancing commercial.
It was the beginning of a new identity, Twiggy, the performer. In 1971, she starred in The Boyfriend, directed by Ken Russell, a musical that earned her 2 Golden Globes. Critics were surprised. Audiences loved her. She was no longer just a muse. She was an artist.
I was very lucky because I met people like Ken Russell, who at the time was the biggest film director in England. And I didn't have a reason to stop modelling. You know, I was doing okay.
And you were doing more than okay, thank you very much.
And then when he cast me in The Boyfriend, it was like, I always say, it was like going into the secret garden. It was like, oh my God, I love this. So that made me change direction.
The girl once teased for being too skinny had become a woman rewriting her own script.
What was it like working with Twiggy? Like, she's amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing. She's a lovely, strong woman, kind of very down to earth, really believes in family, and always been very professional. She's somebody that can kind of morph into so many different things. She's a singer, she's a dancer, she's an actor, she can do so many things. She's just a national treasure, really.
As Twiggy's fame rose, so did the criticism. For every editorial praising her uniqueness, another questioned the message her body sent. Was she too thin? Was she responsible for a shift in body ideals that would ripple for decades? Twiggy pushed back. She wasn't trying to start a trend. She was just being herself. She was naturally thin, even fragile, but not trying to be anyone's ideal. The lashes, the crop, the frame, they weren't manufactured, they were just her. Still, the debate around body image would follow her long after she stepped away from fashion. She became a symbol not just of transformation, but of controversy. Not by design, but by impact. And in many ways, that tension is part of her legacy. She opened doors for non-traditional beauty, but the conversation she started about shape, weight, and worth is still being written today. Twiggy didn't fade. She evolved.
I must have been mad, but I also thought, if Ken thinks I can do it,
right,
maybe I can.
Exactly.
And what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to kill me.
No.
Well, the critics might, but...
In that sense, I
But
suppose.
they didn't.
What followed wasn't just applause, it was credibility. She went on to appear in films like The Devils, W, The Blues Brothers, Club Paradise, and Madame Susatska. In 1983, Twiggy received a Tony Award nomination for her Broadway role in My One and Only.
This was the night of the Tony Awards, and I had this dress made. It's very high cut. I just went to a dressmaker. I did a drawing.
Alongside acting came music, not as a novelty, but as a steady thread. She released 11 albums over 4 decades, beginning with the 1971 soundtrack to The Boyfriend. In 1976, her self-titled album went silver in the UK, with the single Here I Go Again reaching number 17 on the charts. And even decades later, between 2003 and 2011, she returned to the studio for a series of quietly elegant recordings. The girl who had once been too thin, too quiet, too unconventional, was now the woman other icons admired. In 1973, she reappeared, not on the runway, but on the cover of David Bowie's album, Pin-Ups, posed beside him. The image was meant for Vogue, but they refused to publish it. A man, they said, couldn't be on the cover. So Bowie used it for his album instead. Some still call it one of the most iconic covers in rock history. For her, it simply remains a favorite. Even now, few realize that's her next to him. Between tours and recordings, her private life unfolded quietly. In 1977, she married American actor Michael Whitney, with whom she had her daughter Carly. After his sudden death, she later married British actor Lee Lawson in 1988. He adopted Carly as his own. The family stayed mostly out of view. After stepping away from modeling, she became an actress, a singer, a judge on America's Next Top Model, and a designer. She shaped beauty and then redefined what aging gracefully looked like, too. Her name, once a teenage taunt, is now pop culture history. She paved the way for models like Kate Moss, Agnes Dean, and every face that challenged what beauty was supposed to be. In 2019, she was honored as Dame Leslie Lawson.
It changed the criteria of what agencies would take girls on for. And Kate came along 2 decades later and was very similar size and shape to me when I began. And you know, she's one of the great models and one of the nicest girls in the world. I love her. Oh, I remember this day. I won't forget this day as long as I live, I don't think. I'm in a beautiful Stella McCartney suit that she made me. This is at the Palace when I got my damehood. And I remember the day the letter came a few months before the ceremony. And it's a very official letter. And I think my first thought was, oh my God, is it a tax letter, you know?
Twiggy proved that sometimes being underestimated is a superpower, and that you don't have to change yourself to change the world, you just have to show up exactly as you are. But what she gave the world was more than a look. She gave it permission. Permission to be different, to be thin, awkward, quiet, and still be powerful.
I've had an amazing life, amazing career. I'm not moaning about it. This is Twiggy, and this has been my life in looks, and it's been amazing to look back